Good afternoon, dear students. Previous class we learnt about problems of water availability and as well as the conservation of water resources also. In today's class we are going to discuss about natural vegetation and wildlife. See, we often know that natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in the narrow zone of contact between the three different spheres that we already learnt, such as lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. And getting now, see that we call biosphere. So the biosphere, it is actually the narrow zone of contact between these three different spheres such as lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere, and that we call as biosphere. I'm talking about the exist of natural vegetation and wildlife. Natural vegetation and wildlife. So these natural vegetation and wildlife exist between these three different spheres such as atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. So it is actually the narrow zone, getting now, which we call as biosphere. Getting these students in the biosphere. See, in the biosphere, living beings are interrelated. Understood? So, in the biosphere, living beings are so interrelated, interrelated, and as well as interdependent also. Interdependent also. See, to survive each other in the biosphere, so the living beings are interrelated and as well as interdependent also. So this life supporting system, understood now. So this life supporting system, so that we used to call as a ecosystem. It's called as an ecosystem. See, vegetations and wildlife are valuable resources. Vegetation and wildlife are valuable resources. So plants provides us with timber and it gives shelter to animals also and produce oxygen what we breathe and protect soils from, and even soil is essential for growing crops also, and also so the plants are act as shelter beds, act as shelter beds and also help in storage of underground water. So there were many uses are there. So help in storage of underground water also and give us fruits, nuts, latex and even turpentine oil, gum, medicinal plants and also the paper what we are using the present day, the paper also made of plant only. Understood now? See, there are innumerable uses of plants and even you can make a large list about the uses of plants. Understood now? So there are many uses. There are many uses, uncountable. If you are going to make a list of this, See, plants provides us with timber, and also it gives not only for us, so for animals also. It is actually shelters, and plants are producing oxygen what we are breathing, and even the plants protects soil, and also plants are by protecting soil, which is essential for growing crops, and plants are also act as shelter belts, help in storage of underground water, and give us fruits, nuts, even the flowers, latex, terpene, tin oil, gum, medicinal plants, and whatever we are using in our daily life. The paper also made up of plants only. See, there are uncountable uses which we can make a large list about the uses of or how the plants are helpful to us. Even though so, the plants are resources, food resources, especially for animals, also for wild animals. See, wild animals includes where whether the wild animals are living in urban areas or in villages. No, see, wildlife includes animals, birds, insects, as well as the aquatic life forms. So they provide us. See, these are also where we can see the entire wildlife. So it is actually in the forest, and the plants are even so essential for those animals also. Got it, dear students? Now let us discuss about the wildlife. See, the wildlife including the different kind of animals, and different kind of birds, and different kind of insects, and as well as the aquatic life forms also. There were so many. See, these animals provide us so and so things, especially milk, meat, and even hides and wool also. Wool we are getting from the, see, insects like bees that produce what we call the honey bee. So provide us honey and help in pollination of flowers, and have an important role to play as decomposers in the ecosystems also. So the insects also very much important. The insects also very much important. They provide, I mean, a lot of, they are help in the pollination of flowers, and also have an important role to play as decomposers in the ecosystem. See, then what about the birds? The birds are feed on insects and act as decomposers as well. Vulture, due to its ability to feed on dead livestock, is a scavenger and considered a vital cleanser of the environment. There are so many birds, those who are considered as a vital cleanser. So, animals, big or small, all are integral to maintaining balance in the ecosystem. Whether a small insect, whether a small animal, whether a big one. So everything, the entire, the living organisms, so they are contributing, and they are played a vital role to maintain the balance in the ecosystem. Then we can understand about, so each and everything in the nature, each and everything is so important. We should not neglect even a small an ant also. The contribution of an ant is a lot. Even dear students, I would like to tell where we cannot see among human beings being a social being, that's much of unity we can observe in an ant's life. There are a lot of things to learn from an ant that we can imagine. So even so, each and every all the different livestock and living organisms. So they contributed a lot and integral to maintaining a balance in the ecosystem. Now let us discuss about distribution of natural vegetation. Distribution of natural vegetation. See, the growth of vegetation depends primarily on temperature and moisture. Temperature and moisture. So the growth of vegetation depends primarily on temperature and moisture. So the completely throughout the world, the growth of vegetation depends primarily on temperature and moisture. See, the major vegetation types of the world are grouped as forests, grasslands, scrubs, and tundra. So the major vegetation types, so grouped as forest. Understood now? So the major vegetations types of the entire world are grouped in this way: forests and afterwards grasslands, scrubs, and what we call tundra. So these were the major types of the vegetation throughout the world. Understood now? So such as the major types of natural vegetation types throughout the world grouped as like this: forest, grasslands, scrubs, and tundra. See, in areas of heavy rainfall, huge trees may thrive. So where the areas received a heavy rainfall, so there we can see that so the huge trees may thrive. The forests are thus associated with areas having abundant water supply. So as the amount of moisture decreases, the size of trees and their density reduces. So the size of trees and their density, so what happened now? That going to be reduced if suppose the amount of the moisture decreases. And short stunned trees and grasses grow in the regions of moderate rainfall, the forming grasslands of the world. So where the areas are receiving the moderate rainfall. So in that area, so they are forming the grasslands, getting now, and thorny thorny shrubs and scrubs. See, these were grow in dry areas of low rainfall. ಅತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಳೆ ಬೀಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕಾಡುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಾಣಬಹುದು ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಮಾಡರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಳೆ ಬೀಳ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪ್ರದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಗ್ರಾಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಾಣಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ವೇರ್ ದ ಏರಿಯಾಸ್ ಆರ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ಸ್ ಅ ಲೋ ರೈನ್ಫಾಲ್, ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದ ಸ್ಕ್ರಬ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ shrubs, ದ ಥಾರ್ನಿ shrubs ಅಂಡ್ scrubs. ಇಂತಹದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕುರುಚಲು ಗಿಡಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ the areas are not receiving a sufficient amount of the rain. So that's what. So in that dry areas, only thorny shrubs and scrubs are grows. So in such areas, plants have deep roots and leaves with thorny and waxy surface reduce the loss of moisture through transpiration. Getting now? So in the thorny bushes or shrubs or scrubs. So actually in that dry area, there we can see the plants have deep roots because to absorb the moisture and leaves with a thorny and waxy surface that reduce loss of moisture through transpiration. See, tundra vegetation of cold polar regions comprise of mosses of lichens. Comprise of mosses of lichens also. So today there are many more people in the world than there were 2 centuries back. Getting dear students. So today in the present days there are many more people in the world than there were 2 centuries back. To feed the growing numbers, large areas of forest have been cleared to grow crops. Forest cover all over the world is vanishing rapidly. Now, what happened now? So, because of increasing population, so they are cleared to grow more crops. And also, dear students, the forest cover all over the world is vanishing rapidly because of the increasing day by day the population, and there is an urgent need to conserve these valuable resources. It is a very urgent to conserve these valuable the natural vegetation and as well as wildlife. Why? Because now all, as we study, so to maintain the balance in the ecosystem, so even a small creature also that also contribute a lot, including an ant, the small or bigger animals. See, if there is no forest, if there is no plants, where those animals can live, where those animals can get their food. Whether is it possible to feed by us? No. Because day by day we are clearing the forest and even we are killing the animals also for different purposes, for commercial purposes. Understood now? See, because to modify our life, to maintain our status, so the human beings are clearing the forest and as well as killing the wild animals also. So that's what, dear students. So if we want to live on this earth, we should leave others also to live in a safe way. Otherwise, only if I want to live on this earth, if I am not going to leave others especially such as the different vegetation and wildlife. So then we cannot live in future days. One day this earth may become the dried one, and that time we cannot see any living organisms or especially the human beings existence. ಸೊ ಮಾನವನ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳ, ಮಾನವನ ಉಳಿವು ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಇದು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ಮಾನವ ಹೇಗೆ ತನ್ನ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾನೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. It is completely depend upon human beings how they are leading their life, how they are going to save the natural vegetation and as well as wildlife. Because if you are not going to save the natural vegetation, so then there we can see, and even we can't lead the joyful or healthy life. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಬದುಕಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ವಾಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾವು ಆರೋಗ್ಯವಂತರಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ವೆಜಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ದ wildlife also. Because so in our environment, so animals whether small or big and the natural vegetations, so they are all are integral to maintaining the balance in the ecosystem. They are maintaining balance. If there is no balance, then the time it's become too difficult to survive. to live also. So that's what dear students. So please keep it in your mind. So conservation of natural vegetation and wildlife. So that must become one of our essential duty in our life. And then let us discuss about this. See, forests are our wealth. Forests are our wealth. So plants give shelter to the animals and together they maintain the ecosystem. See, changes of climate and human interferences can cause the loss of natural habitats for the plants and animals. That cause a lot. See, many species have become vulnerable or endangered and some are on the verge of extinctions also. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಸಸ್ಯ ಸಂಪತ್ತು ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳು ಇವತ್ತು ಅವು ಕಾಣ್ತಾನಿಲ್ಲ ಅವುಗಳ ಸಂತತಿ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ಸ್. See, deforestation, soil erosion, constructional activities, forest fire, tsunami, landslides. So these are all some of the human and natural factors which accelerate the process of extinction of these resources. Extinction of these resources. So there are human and even the natural factors also. Deforestation, soil erosion, constructional activities, and forest fire, tsunami, and landslides. These are some of the human and natural factors which accelerate the process of extinction of the resources. See, one of the major concern is that poaching which result in a sharp decline in the number of particular species. The animals are poached for collection and illegal trade of hides, skins, nail, teeth, horn as well as feathers. We are poaching, we are hunting the animals for all these different purposes to get there. It's actually even everyone they knows that this is the illegal activity and illegal trade. But for commercial purpose, they are poaching the different animals for hides, skins, nail, even the teeth, and to get horns and as well as feathers. See, some of these animals are tiger, lion, elephant, deer, even the black buck, crocodile, rhinoceros, and even the snow leopard, ostrich, and peacock. So this can be considered by increasing awareness. Of course, dear students, you all of you knows that nowadays throughout the world there are so many national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves are made to protect our natural vegetation and wildlife. And throughout the world, so the governments, the respective governments are taking some of the actions to conserve the natural vegetation and as well as wildlife by establishing natural parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and biosphere reserves. See, conservation of creeks, lakes, and wetlands is necessary to save the precious resource from depletion also. It is all very essential. See, there is a balance in the environment if the relative number of species is not disturbed. Human activities in several parts of the world have disturbed the natural habitats of many species. So we are disturbing each and everyone. So due to indiscriminate killings, several birds and animals have either become extinct or on the verge of extinction. See, awareness programs like social forestry and Vanamahotsava should be encouraged at the regional and community level to save our natural vegetation, to save our wildlife. So these kind of some of the programs and even about these programs, it needs to be created awareness amongst especially social forestry and Vanamahotsava. And we all of knows that school children should be encouraged to bird watch and visit nature camps so that they appreciate the habitat of varied species. So many countries have passed laws against the trade as well as killing of birds and animals. Even in India also, dear students, killing some of the animals such as lions, tigers, deers, great Indian bustards and peacocks is illegal. Of course, an international convention, CITES, So has been established that lists several species of animals and birds in which trade is prohibited. So conservation of plants and animals is an ethical duty of every citizen. It's the duty of every citizen. Conservation of plants and animals, and we must aware and we must create regarding this the awareness in our society, and we must save the natural vegetation and wildlife, dear students. Otherwise, so in a future days, so we are going to suffer more than those. ನಾವು ಬದುಕಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಬೇರೆ ಜೀವಿಗಳನ್ನು ಸಹ ನಾವು ಬದುಕಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿಡಬೇಕು ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಉಳಿವು ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಸ್ಯ ಸಂಪತ್ತು ಏನಿದೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಆ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳ ಸಂಕುಲ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಪ್ರಾಣಿ ಸಂಕುಲ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸಸ್ಯ ಸಂಪತ್ತನ್ನ ಕಾಪಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರಷ್ಟೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಜೀವನ ಎರಡು ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ವುಡ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲೆಸನ್ ಬೈ ದಿಸ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎ ನೈಸ್ ಡೇ.